Easy, how are we?
Seán, what's happening?
Not much, big man. Well, actually, a lot. The running is going decent this week, but I have to clarify that it's a Sunday afternoon as we're recording this podcast. I just got my long running this morning, so I will be able to have a few beers tonight and watch my football and not worry about slurring my words in this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. And a shout out. A shout out. I've gotten 4 messages so far based on this morning's run. Nothing about actually doing the run, the 20K or leading up the Ecotrail. They're like, Seán, do you have to wear all your 49ers gear at once doing my runs? And in September, yes, I do. I had the woolly hat out today going for the run because it was early enough. Went like 9 o'clock and looking out like, ooh, this looks like a cold one. I think it's time to start bringing out the woolly hat. Big mistake. 2-3K in, and I was like, I am sweating right now. So we've done podcasts before where it's like, especially it starts to get colder, you should be a little bit colder than normal for the first kilometer or two, and then you kind of acclimatize to it, and you warm up, and the sweat's flowing a bit more, and you ease into it. But there's nothing worse than being 2-3K in, thinking, okay, I'm going to get warmed up and feel all right, to like, I'm sweating, and I've still got another 17K to go up in this.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, I'm always a sucker for it because I am purely a fair weather athlete. But the being cold and then layering up just to start, knowing you'll get warm, but you're just freezing. You're like, oh, I don't care. I'm wearing my jumper. I'm wearing this. I'm wearing that. Then a few K in, you're like, why did I do it?
And it is one of those where you're kind of like, if I don't wear or if I don't think about putting something on or a hat on or just an extra layer, I'm not going to go out running. So it's like as it starts to get colder, it's like whatever gets me out the door. Now, obviously, there's external motivation with the marathon coming up and trying to get miles and legs and all the rest. Whereas if it was just a normal day, it's like I'm not making it out. Now, like I ran last Sunday and it just never stopped raining all the way through. If I hadn't got different events coming up, I'm not running. I'm like, nah, I can leave this one out. But just the clock is ticking towards all these events I got coming up. It's like I have to put miles and legs, wrap up and go, and just deal whatever the weather brings from there.
Yeah, 6 weeks ish to the marathon, and I did my first 5K on Friday.
Oh, how's it on? oh wait, Friday.
yeah. Well, this is going to be a 0 to hero in 6 weeks. Do you know what's funny? And we always kind of say this. It comes back to the whole. Do you know when you've just done something, you're like, it'll be all right.
Yeah,
it won't be all right, but it's a marathon at the end of the day. But mentally, I've been in worse situations before, so I'm kind of like 6 weeks. Let's just load it up and see what happens on the day. So yeah, it's pretty bad, but yeah, like run the 5K, a few niggles and whatever coming up. But I figured actually it's been 2 years since I bought a new pair of runners, so I was actually like, maybe I should buy a new pair of shoes. So I went on the shoe hunt. I did go on the shoe hunt, and we can talk about that a bit later.
Yeah, but, I've actually got a couple. I've got a great segue into that shoe hunt because I've got a couple of things to show actually after we hit the intro music for this. But right before we do hit the intro music, how is the body feeling after what you did last week with all the cycles and stuff and getting back into running? Are you feeling good for these next 6 weeks ahead, or were you in recovery mode all this week, like just in terms of sleep, recovery, everything else, and just the body trying to get back running again? How were you feeling?
I went on a 6K on the treadmill on the Monday. Sorry, so it's actually, I lied. It wasn't my first transition. On the Monday, I went to the gym and did 6K. I started at like 10 kilometers an hour. I ran for 3 or 4 minutes, then went to 12, and then all the way up to 17 kilometers an hour, and then back down again. So I did a good little, now I'd walk for a minute in between each interval change. So it was like 4 minutes at 12 kilometers an hour, 3 minutes at 40. I just kept up in it. So what was realistic, but I just felt like the legs needed to go fast. They've been in somewhat of an autopilot for the week on the bike and have been for a while. So I just needed to just do something different. So yeah, we went on a quick session, and that kind of, I don't know if anyone's ever done a leg day, how they feel 2 days afterwards. I kind of carried that feeling into Monday. Did a little bit of work, and then I said, look, I just have to end this now. And I got on the treadmill and I did the sprint work and or the quick tempoed work or varied tempos work. And after that, I was absolutely fine. And then I did nothing for the rest of the week. I shook off that and said, look, we're still tired. I still was waking up feeling like, how am I going to get out of bed? Just tiredness. But then I got towards Thursday, Friday. I did a ride along in an ambulance as part of the explosion trainer. So like I was tired as it was after that. But I went to bed at 9:00 that night. I came home. I think that was all the adrenaline, what was left of it, had left.
God.
Because I didn't sleep great afterwards. But I got home and we were watching the new Lord of the Rings on Amazon Prime. And I got about halfway through and they were introducing new names that I can't pronounce and new places. And I was like, listen, I'm going to stop you there because I'm not enjoying this. And I just went to bed and fell asleep. Oh, I swear to God, I woke up for work the next day at 8:00. I was like, I nearly slept for 11 hours. And then Friday into Saturday was no different. I went to bed. I was kind of annoyed with myself. Well, no, I went for the run on Friday. And I got this weird energetic feeling. I went for my run, then I went to play a game of pool, had a bit of food. But by the time I came back, I was just in a weird mood. I had like, even though I'd been for a run, I had all this energy and nothing to use it on. And like, I wasn't going out, wasn't going partying, or I was just wired but annoyed. I was frustrated but happy. Like it was just in a weird sense. She was looking at me like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I was like, what's wrong with you? So yeah, it was bizarre. So I think in a way, because that was only a 5K at a 5-minute pace or a 5:05 pace or something along those lines. But I think the body is just ready for endurance. I think I shouldn't have had that much energy on a Friday night after a long week and a good night's sleep. So come tomorrow now, it's 6 weeks. I've done up my training plan here now, so it's 6 weeks of hell.
Unreal.
Yeah, my final training session is a marathon. So it's going to be interesting.
Well, fair play for listening to the body anyway on the training. And speaking of endurance, we're going to go straight into some insane endurance that happened over the weekend, right after we hit the intro music for this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. Let's go. So here's a mad one for you, Eric, and for anyone listening to this week's episode. The European 24-hour Championships was on over the weekend. And there was this guy, Alexander Sorkin, who smashed his own world record. So he did 318 kilometers in 24 hours. That is running at a 4:30 pace. Now, we're talking about running the 5+ minutes pace here. 318 kilometers, it's pretty much the equivalent to running 7.5 marathons, a little bit over 7.5 marathons, averaging at 3 hours and 10 minutes for each one, setting a new world record. Process that.
Yeah, well, I heard he's useless on the beer.
Speaking on that, actually, which would just lead to a challenge that you got called out on. So I put this up earlier on the Facebook page, and Dara got back to us, and he was telling us, because I actually didn't know much about this, I'm totally honest. I just saw this scrolling through Twitter, and Dara obviously kept up on it. He said there's an Irish guy that did it as well. I'm going to butcher his surname, but I'll try it anyway. Ed McGrotery. He set an Irish 24-hour record, the same thing, over this past weekend. He ran the event. He did 257 kilometers in 24 hours, which is absolutely phenomenal. But he also has the record of running from Maidenhead to Mizenhead. He ran it in 3 days, 2 hours, 53 minutes. Well, of course, Dara said the challenge for you for that next one. Maybe you want to get off the bike and just start running instead.
Yeah, well, we cycled a longer route. Yeah, it's 3 days. Did he sleep?
Oh, he would have had to have. He would have had to have napped during it at some stage. I would imagine. Like he wouldn't have done it straight. 3 days? What's that? 72 hours, 74 hours and 53 minutes.
Well, like I think the shortest distance, or thereabouts, is between 500 and 560 kilometers. So like in 3 days, like that's that's disgusting. So he's running 2.5 marathons a day just to go to sleep, to wake up and do it. No.
Oh,
No, I like my life.
I just thought you were talking about, dude, the body was ready for endurance. You said right before we hit the intro music, and I was like, here's endurance.
Yeah, but equally, I like watching TV and I like drinking and eating Chinese. Yeah, like it's like, where do you find the time to train for that? Like, it's a devotion. Like what do they work at? Like, that's what I want to know.
I don't think you can totally train for like you know, you do marathon training, and I could be completely wrong on this. Like, you do marathon training, you never quite hit the marathon. Like, you're never going to quite. For example, he did 257 kilometers which is pretty much half the distance of Malin to Mizenhead from you talking about it, roughly. He did that in 24 hours, but like, he couldn't have went 3 weeks out, right? I'm going to do 150 kilometers and then tapered for the next 3 weeks and into it. I don't think it's a balance thing. I think it gets to a certain stage where you can only do a certain amount of running. Obviously, you're doing a lot of miles each day. But you can't be going, okay, 10-hour run or 14, 16-hour run. Let's wait 3 weeks and do a small bit and taper back to it then. There has to be a lot of mental and stuff to that just to keep going. Like, I think it's completely new territory in terms of what the body could do, what the body can achieve, and what to train for. Like, we have an idea of you could argue the best approach to training for a marathon, because marathons have been going on, at a high level since, I don't know, the 60s, 50s, whatever it is now. Whereas this is, I think, ultra marathons is a relatively new phenomenon. Like, you're seeing world records and stuff being broken a lot more consistently. More people are talking about it. That seems to be just the last 20, 30 years that you're hearing a lot about it. That I think the actual training for it just seems to be a new approach. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, it's definitely something you have to commit to. Like, I know a bit. And I know for a marathon, you do your 5Ks, 10Ks, halves, maybe go to 30K. And you try and do them consistently and you build your miles. So by that logic, you're doing 3 marathons a day. So do you do a marathon a day? Do you run a 40K every day? So and particularly at that pace. So you have to give 3 hours of your day every day to running. So say you split that. You go in the morning for your 21K, and then you're getting out for another 21K. That's still 4 or 5 hours of good training, including your stretching, yoga, whatever else you're going to add in on top of it. Like, it's a lot of time, and I respect them for doing it. I don't know where I'd find that extra. I know, of course, I could, but then, I don't know if I have that yearning enough to go and run for 24 hours straight to see how far I can get. I don't think I'll ever have that. I do enjoy a marathon. But I equally enjoy being able to kick off the shoe. Well, maybe these people
you have that balance. Maybe actually, just as you're talking there, I was just looking to see what popped up on his training schedule, and there's one he's just got, like, he ran 90 minutes and then did 2.5 hours, and then there's the next picture is him there with everything a beer. So, like, obviously you do have your balance and every which way to try and do it, but it's just phenomenal what people can do. And I'm like, oh man, I can't get the 4-minute pace for fucking 20 minutes to get my 5K. It's just phenomenal. When you see stuff like that, though, to me, it's like, okay, there has to be a way to try and just push yourself that little bit hard. I'm not saying I'll ever do anything like that in my lifetime, but I'm just saying that the fact that the body can do so much more and stuff, to me, I find it's inspirational to go, okay, this is actually plausible and possible to keep pushing that extra little bit more. Seeing it be done. Like, and just to bring it back to surround yourself with people that, like, for example, I see now you can run a 20-minute a 5K in 19 minutes something, and we've talked before about the incredible stuff that the Aussie's done with all his trails and stuff like that, and what Dara's done recently, his 12-hour runs, and he did 130 kilometers or something there recently. But you see, when people are closer to you, able to achieve these feats, it's like, okay, actually surrounding yourself with these people, I can push a little bit more. So I take it as motivation.
Oh yeah, no, look, I know I sounded quite defeatist, but I think I'm talking about training for a marathon in 6 weeks, and you're talking about nearly 300 kilometers.
Different definitions of endurance, isn't it?
Like, I admire it, and it is true. If you can see it, you can believe it. Like, if you can, and that's what I suppose so many people don't believe. I can't believe he ran, and this, like, you almost had to see it to believe it to achieve it, you know. And I admire these people who have never seen it but achieve it, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's similar to when you run events and you see the guys doing like if you're doing a 5K or 10K, whatever it is, and you see people running consistently at a 3:30 pace or something, or even like faster, like they just look so relaxed running so fast. It's just phenomenal to see. And you're like, okay, this is actually possible to keep that going. So switching gears a little bit on this, because you talked about getting a new pair of runners and stuff. I saw this study on Instagram, Run Smarter series. So basically you're talking about whether if you have multiple different types of runners for multiple different types of runs, is it more beneficial or not in terms of running injuries? So they said various studies have estimated that like between 27 and 70% of recreational and competitive runners sustain overuse injuries during a 1 year of practice. And we've said it before that running, I don't know for yourself, definitely, but I know myself, the most common, I've been injured more running than doing soccer, American football, all these other sports. Like I've had more niggles and stuff doing running than anything else, just so that repetitive strain. So they're talking about this study, and I'll try and make it as least scientific as I can and get through it quickly, get to the point. But there was like 264 recreational runners, and they had a 22-week training program. So 116 of them had just the one runner for all their training, and 148 of them had different types of runners for the different types of training, their speed work, long runs, and stuff like that. And out of all the 264 runners, they found that I think it was 87 people experienced at least one injury during the 5-month follow-up period. And out of all of them, sorry, I'm just scrolling through the thing. Basically, they said that by having multiple runners, there was a 39% lower risk of injury compared to runners using only one pair of shoe. The multiple shoe users had a predominant pair of shoes. They only ran for no more than 58% of their running session on average. So it could be argued that the relationship between multiple shoe use strategy and is the same, and the lower risk injury arises from alternating in the force applied to body. So basically what they're saying is because you're wearing different types of shoes, that your body is the force of your feet hitting the ground is different each time you are running. So I know, for example, my Hokas have that rowing boat kind of thing because of my Achilles, but they're saying that if you use that along with more, because you're obviously running differently compared to sprints and intervals than you are with long distance runs, but the impact's pretty much the same based on the type of running shoe you're using. Whereas I say multiple runners are different. The reason I was interested in the study was because I started wearing Nikes for longer runs now because of the trail run coming up, and I was like, I better get more hiking type runners, not hiking runners, but more kind of grips and stuff like that.
Trail runner,
that's the exact word I'm looking for. Trail runner. So I started using trail runners and stuff for longer runs. I can't do too much hills at the moment, which is not good for next week, but I started to see how I felt in the trail runners, and I'm actually wearing the Nikes kind of going, ooh, these actually feel more comfortable than the Hokas for me right now. I don't know if it's because it's different or what it is, but I just felt lighter wearing them, even though the trail runners, they should be heavier. But I was like, wonder what would I be interested in? So like Rachel has different runners for speed than she does for long runs. And I was like, is that really necessary? Like, I know we talk about carbon for races and I agree with that, but is it necessary? But according to this study, you might be less likely to get injured if you had one for intervals and one for long runs. And look, at the end of the day, it's basically the other half's like, hey, what are you doing all these extra runs? Like, I'm saving money on physio points.
And you know what? I went down the dark hole and I walked into a shop and sat there with the names of every ASIC runner, every Hoka runner, Nike runner. And I was like, okay, so what does the cumulonimbus ASIC runner do for me? And it's like, really good for long distance. Wouldn't use it for speed work. I was like, ooh. And then, so I'm like, so there's intervals and long distance. And then like the next runner, Hokas, and you have the Clifton 8s, which I'm probably going to get. And there's we'll call it Bondi or Arahi or one of them. There's a few others. And it's like the difference between them is this one has an extra little bit of fluff here. And I'm like, how it's gotten to a stage where it's gotten so difficult to make a choice about shoe. I just can't get, but on my last run, I did feel little niggles. And as we've always said before, I was like, what's causing this? And I was like, maybe the shoes. And I looked back to when I bought the shoes, nearly 2 years. So it's we'll start there. But I do think like I've looked at other shoes. I know which ones I'm going to use for the next 6 weeks to get me through the marathon. And then I am the same, because a lot of the people I run with, and I know Oisin Harney has a few different pairs of shoes, and he was trying to tell me, get this shoe and then get that shoe, and then when you actually want to run fast, get back into Nikes. And like he was giving me a fair solid on it. And Rachel and Brandon were giving me, don't go away from Hoka's, like they're the best for long distance, like it was. So there's just so much there. It's like, and not to give out about it, running isn't cheap. So like each of these pairs it's a choice of 150 euros. So you better be right. So it's hard to buy 3 or 4 pairs of them when they're 150 a pop. So we want to work on our sponsorship skills, Sean. I think
we really do. Well, they last longer if you had different, like initial investment is higher, obviously, because they're 150 quid, 3, 4 pop. But each one would last longer. Like I went through my last pair of Hokas in 5-6 months. Like I got them the start of the year, and I probably should have got a new pair in June. And it was July, August by the time I eventually got a new pair, and the niggles were starting to add up a lot more and more before I got my new Clifton 8s. And I was like, but I used them runners for practically everything except a race day. And I had a different pair for race day, and that was it. My speed work and all was done with it. But I've never had a speed pair of runners. So I'm like, would it make much difference in my speed training or not? And I don't know, but I'm just basing off that study and basing just thinking on it. I'm like, maybe.
And then speed is relative. So my speed is not necessarily as good as someone else's speed. So it's, what is the best speed to be running at? Like is a 4-minute speed?
I suppose more how you feel when you hit that run compared to the other ones. They feel, I don't know. I haven't worn enough pair of runners to see if any pair feel heavier or lighter or anything like that. I just know that the Hokas feel comfortable, but it's just when I start wearing the Nikes, so it's kind of like, actually, these feel somewhat just different on my feet when I was running. Now, I did buy the for anyone interested, Gore-Tex or something they're called. So I did look into them for the heel depth and stuff, so they try to be somewhat as similar as the Cliftons would be. But I thought I'd need them anyway, just because of the different grips and stuff. And obviously they are different running compared to the Hokas, but I don't know if they are. I still don't know if they're more beneficial or less beneficial. Maybe I just wanted more flashier runners for running, like they talk about the Pegasus and the Alpha Flies and the Vapor Flies and all the rest. So I'm still at a complete loss on whether I should change shoe from change a shoe for the sake of changing shoe. But like we said before, everyone feels the niggles leading up to marathon training. You're going to get them anyway, and it's not the best answer. It's not always just a change shoe. Or to your part, if you're wearing the same pair for 2 damn years, yes, you should change shoe.
Yeah, no, I haven't done a lot of running, so I kind of thought I'd get away with it. But I put them on, and they're just they don't have it. They've been through the washing machine a few times and wrecked and this and that. So no, we're going to get a new pair. So I think the Clifton 8s will probably be a winner, and then I might look into something. I might look into, like, there's some good ones out there. Like I wore the Sauconys before; they were great shoe. I really loved them. I bought Adidas. I really loved them. Like it's. I really liked On, apart from the part that it kept cutting my ankles because the rubber on the bottom was so solid. But I think a lot of people are wearing On runners now as kind of a fashion daily runner as opposed to running. And I see a lot of people walking around in Ons with their leggings and shorts on. I'm like, oh, you don't run. So yeah, it's
you don't see that with Hokas unless they're running.
Yeah, you're.
Someone's
really
wearing a Hokas, they're 9 times that they are a runner.
Yeah, and like Ons look really well, but I just found I just kept slicing my ankles because every so often, half turning or whatever, you'll just nick your inside of your heel or whatever. And they were cutting me up. I was like, oh, I don't like this. But now they're, in fairness, not to give On a bad name, they're a great shoe. I really enjoyed them, but they have the softer stuff now. They've gone down the lines of the Hokas as well with some of their more long distance runner. but a very nice shoe, a really, really nice shoe. But yeah, it is hard to know. It's hard to know, and
Yeah.
I'm finding it hard to move away from Hoka. I think they've been very good to me, very comfortable.
Yeah. I will say this with the Hokas, and I've been using Hoka since my second marathon, I think. And they've been very, very good to me, and I haven't had as many niggles and injuries as before using them. But the soles of them, the last 2 pair of Cliftons I've had, the soles in the back, the other little extra rubber grips, they have just peeled away within a month. And I don't know if it's a Hoka thing. I don't even know exactly how to describe it, to Google it to see what the problem is. But they're literally just peeled away. And like my new pair now I've had within a month, I noticed, I'm like, oh, the grips are starting to go on that already. And like, I'm not running any mad terrain. Most of it's just been road running, really. A small bit of hills here and there, but nothing too out of the ordinary for a general pair. Not to put you off the Clifton 8s, because I do find, I was running today, 20K, no issues. But the grips are starting to go in the backs.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And maybe it's to do with your gait as you're running. Maybe you're striking.
My gait may have changed because I haven't checked it in the last couple of years.
Yeah. And that's one thing I'll keep an eye on it as I get them. I'll be placing an order today and hopefully getting them here. So I'll do 2 more runs in the old runners and hopefully not hurt myself too bad. And then they should be here. But yeah. And you know what's kind of sad? Like, you know the way Asics was the ultimate runner's runner. Or maybe I'm wrong, but they have some great shoes there. But I just don't. Not that I didn't trust them. They just didn't feel, or like, it was hard to just describe what was going on. Now, I did try on a few of them, and I probably would go 1 or 2 of them, only they hadn't got them in stock or in my size at the time. But yeah, it's a lot of people doing the long game have kind of moved away from Asics, which I kind of find sad. I've always kind of thought having Asics, that was it. You'd win gold everywhere. But yeah, a lot of people, and even Under Armour, I know some people who are sponsored by Under Armour don't wear Under Armour when they're running. Like, so,
really?
Yeah.
I never went to Under Armour for runners now. They just don't seem to have the market locked up. But to your point with Asics, to me, it kind of reminds me back in the day, you used to get your Umbros. Well, back in the day now.
Yeah.
You wouldn't really anymore. Like, it's mad how it just changes and stuff. It's got more the Nike kind of era.
Yeah, so it is different. But if Under Armour are listening, I'm happy to prove everyone wrong and wear Under Armour runners. If you're willing to give me and Seán 8 pairs. But yeah, we can wear 1 a week and we can get through a whole season.
100% here. Just to wrap it up, the Nike Gore-Tex trail runners, they get the true test next week, because next Saturday I'm doing that 80K Ecotrail. If they get me through that, Nike, I'll talk about them and say that was the sole reason if you want to sponsor us for that one.
We'll take what we can get. And I'll officially be 30 the next time we are talking. So there's gonna be a lot happening.
Yeah, we'll try and record a podcast. We'll try and record a podcast this time next week on how I got on my Ecotrail and how you get on turning 30. So it could be the hangover episode this time next week.
As long as I don't wake up with a tiger beside me, I'll be all right.
And on that bombshell, guys, thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. That's it from myself and Eric. Take care.
Bye.